Aloha and good afternoon. Welcome to This Is Now. A hiker from California who was found after being missing for 3 days is sharing his story.
Yeah, 34-year-old Ian Snyder is thanking the first responders who rescued him after he fell about 1,000 feet from the Koolau Summit Trail last week, Monday. Here's a portion of his press conference.
I don't know when I toppled. I know that I'd looked down at Poly Highway and went, man, that's a long way below me, and I needed to get down there. That was my plan, was to get down there. So, but I don't know when I toppled and fell. Once I came to, I had no idea what had happened, how long it had been. I'd been out clearly. I can't even remember if it was daytime, nighttime. The first time I came to, I was chilly, but it's Hawaii. It's not that cold, so I know I'd be okay. And I remember being close to the stream, and at some points in the few days, I know I must have shifted locations, dragged myself along, and gotten myself closer to the stream. I kind of got between two rocks where I knew it'd be more sheltered out of the wind, and I made sure I had a spot where I could get the water as I needed with my right hand. And I kind of just hunkered down from there, and time passed, and I did not have any understanding how long it had been. It's a miracle first and foremost of God that I'm simply here, and you guys were able to find me that day and respond and do everything that you were trained to do and need to do at that time to be able to respond well. So I just want to thank you for that.
Now, Mahealani Richardson is going to have much more on this story coming up on First at 4.
Part of a 7-story residential building in the Bronx, New York, collapsed yesterday. Now, the miraculous thing is no one was killed in this incident. Officials say there were warning signs right before part of the building came down. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has more.
This is a 7-story building that collapsed, the entire corner of it collapsing to the ground. We're told that there are no serious injuries or deaths, which is remarkable, but there may be a good reason for that. Yesterday afternoon, people in the area say there was a loud bang and some shaking. That may have been enough to get people out of the building and into safety. If you look up at the top floor, on the 7th floor, there's an apartment there where you can see a bed, a chest of drawers, toys on the floor, all seemingly undisturbed, with the exterior wall completely sheared off. Now, emergency crews were here through the night. There was an ominous warning late yesterday that they thought there may be people in the rubble, but thankfully this morning there are not. Officials at this point do not have a reason for the collapse, although there is a report that there was some damage to the facade. I spoke with people in this neighborhood who tell me that they have problems with their buildings, and they look up at this one and they are angry and afraid. Back to you.
After a very heated battle, Harvard University's president Claudine Gay will keep her position. According to CNN, the university's governing body released a statement saying they stand in support of her unanimously. There were calls to fire Gray over last week's congressional hearing about anti-Semitism on campus. But since then, there has been an outpouring of support for her from faculty and alumni that may have contributed to that decision.
The White House says if Congress doesn't act soon, America will no longer be able to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Aid is set to dry up at the end of this month, and that's why Ukraine's president is on Capitol Hill today. Natalie Brand has more.
Well, Mr. President, welcome back.
President Joe Biden welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the White House Tuesday afternoon.
I think it's very important People need to be confident that freedom is secure and strong enough to win.
This is his third trip to the U.S., but it may be his most urgent yet, as U.S. funding for Ukraine will run out in the next couple of weeks.
Mr. President, I've called on Congress to do the right thing, to stand with Ukraine and to stand up for freedom.
Zelensky spent the morning on Capitol Hill, meeting with all U.S. senators, and then he met privately with House leaders. New House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's not opposed to additional money for Ukraine, but says he prioritizes securing America's southern border.
Our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe.
A standoff over the border has stalled the president's $110 billion package in the Senate, which includes aid for Ukraine, Israel, and other national security priorities.
We need to keep grinding through the negotiations, but I think the administration needs to recognize they have a problem. They need to stop worrying about their base and start worrying more broadly about the American people.
Some Republicans have questioned whether another $60 billion in aid for Ukraine will actually help them win the war. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The House Rules Committee is considering whether to advance the impeachment inquiry of President Biden to the full House today. Committee Chair Tom Cole stressed that today's hearing and vote is about the process, not an outcome. Meanwhile, Democrat Jim McGovern ripped Republicans for what he called a sham and a national disgrace. While Oklahoma Republican Cole stressed that the House is not there to act as judge or jury today, McGovern called the whole thing an extreme political stunt. The Massachusetts lawmaker outlined Democrats' case that President Biden respects the law, that any Republican allegations against Biden have already been debunked, and that the White House is still cooperating with Republicans through what McGovern called a fraudulent process.
We are here to determine a process, not an outcome. We are here to assert our Article I responsibilities, not to act as judge or jury. And we are here fundamentally to chart a path forward that unveils the facts to the public.
This impeachment sham is, to put it bluntly, an extreme political stunt. It has no credibility, no legitimacy, and no integrity. It's a distraction to draw our attention away from House Republicans' do-nothing Congress that has failed to pass any meaningful laws to help the American people. And it's a shocking weaponization of the impeachment process by MAGA extremists who are dead set on doing anything and everything they can to help elect Donald Trump.
Now to an update on that pregnant mother of two in Texas who now plans to leave the state to get an abortion her doctors say she needs. Just moments after she announced that decision, the Texas Supreme Court says she does not meet the criteria for the state's strict medical abortion exceptions. Laura Jarrett has the update.
This morning, a Texas mother making a difficult decision to leave her home state for the emergency abortion her doctors say she needs. Her legal team saying Kate Cox's health situation had grown worse.
Once you've had multiple trips to the emergency room, it doesn't make any sense to keep waiting.
Hours later, the highest court in Texas overruling a lower court's decision on Monday, now saying Cox's doctor didn't show her abortion would meet the standard for a medical necessity, clarifying the narrow exceptions to the state's abortion bans.
I never thought I would ever need or want an abortion. I always wanted a big family.
It's a case of legal whiplash for Kate and her husband Justin, who already have 2 children. The couple devastated to learn the baby she's carrying is suffering from a fatal genetic condition, a pregnancy her doctors say is not viable and jeopardizes her future fertility.
There's no outcome here that I take home my healthy baby girl.
Last week, a state court judge ordered Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton not to enforce the state's 6-week abortion ban against Cox or her doctors.
The idea that Miss Cox wants desperately to be a parent, and this law might actually cause her to lose that ability is shocking.
But that decision was quickly put on hold after Paxton's office petitioned the state's highest court, arguing Cox doesn't meet the criteria for a medical exception. Paxton also warning 3 hospitals in the area they could be subject to civil or criminal penalties if her doctor was allowed to perform the abortion.
New at noon today, Young Brothers has announced the temporary closure of the port of Hilo. They say during a routine inspection by the U.S. Coast Guard, they found an issue with the fire suppression system. They added that they are working swiftly to find fixes and temporary mitigation measures. It's unclear exactly what impacts this could have on Hilo's community and local economy. The closure lasts today and will remain in place until the fixes are made.
New images of the suspicious item that was found in someone's luggage during a routine checked baggage screening at Honolulu's airport last Friday. TSA says the item has been identified as a .50 caliber anti-aircraft round of ammunition, which is prohibited from flying in either carry-on or checked bags. During screening, the bag was flagged as a potential security threat. TSA officers and an agency explosive specialist reviewed the X-ray image of the item and notified law enforcement. The Hawaii State Sheriff's, Honolulu Police Department Bomb Squad, and U.S. Air Force Explosive Ordnance Disposal responded to the incident and, out of an abundance of caution, evacuated the room. TSA said the item was removed from the area and a 52-year-old man was arrested.
Police are investigating 2 violent and disturbing incidents at Oahu schools. Both of them took place on high school campuses. Sources tell us on December 2nd, a 15-year-old was mugged by a group of males, including one who had a gun. It happened at night on the Nanakuli High School campus. And again on the night of December 5th, an 18-year-old woman told police she was sexually assaulted in the parking structure at Aiea High School. We spoke with a former gang member who's now trying to help young people stay out of trouble.
Think back in my old life, if you know that this blocks, that this community is tight-knit, that they're watching out for each other, and if I know that, I'm not going to go into the community. Whatever them older guys are doing, good or bad, that's the influence.
The Department of Education says keeping trespassers off campus is a challenge due to the way most schools are designed. But when possible, gates and surveillance equipment are used, and some schools have hired security to patrol after hours.
A 47-year-old Kalapana Black Sands estates man is out of jail after posting bail. Jamil Comier is accused of holding off police who were attempting to serve a narcotics search warrant at his home late last month. That's according to the Hawaii Tribune Herald. On November 28th, he allegedly held police at bay for hours before eventually surrendering. A 19-year-old Navy sailor from Hilo was killed after a night of partying turned tragic back in 2021. A fellow sailor was sentenced to 5 years in prison yesterday for his role in the death. Jonathan Masaki spoke with the victim's mother.
Cameron Anthony Seiji Flores was a young sailor stationed at Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach, Virginia. 2 years ago, Cameron got together with some buddies one night to party. That night, tragically, would be his last.
My understanding is Porter had gone and bought the drugs and brought the drugs to the apartment they were in. They all partook of the drugs.
Colette Oishi Flores, Cameron's mother, is referring to this man, Enrique Porter, who pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter in the death of Cameron. He and 2 other sailors were allegedly partying with Cameron when things got out of hand.
From their recollection, Cameron had a bad reaction, I guess, to the drugs. And to subdue him, they first tried to, one of them punched him. I guess that didn't work. So eventually they all held him face down on the bed. So he succumbed to his death.
Court documents reveal Porter was the one responsible for punching Cameron and that he and 2 other sailors, Corey Franklin and Christopher Henderson, held Cameron face down on a bed to control and quiet him. It was Porter who kept holding Cameron's head face down on a pillow when he finally stopped moving.
So he actually died from asphyxiation due to smothering.
And sadly, no one rendered aid when they saw that he wasn't moving. Is that what you understand as well?
That's my understanding, yes.
Introducing Cameron Flores.
Flores, a graduate of Waiakea High School, had high aspirations in life. He was an avid swimmer, a member of the Civil Air Patrol, and wanted to pursue a career in politics. He joined the U.S. Navy upon graduation and chose air traffic controller as his military occupational skill. Cameron's death has obviously devastated his family, and Mom Colette has this message for parents.
In Hawaii, we trust everybody because it's such a small community. But we have to remember to let our children know that when they go out into the big world, you cannot trust everybody, even if it's your coworkers.
The two other sailors in the case, Franklin and Henderson, are being tried separately from Porter. Their trials are scheduled to head to court in early 2024. John Tamasaki, Hawaii News Now.
The National Kidney Foundation says Hawaii residents are at a higher risk of experiencing kidney disease. One West Oahu firefighter is thankful to be alive after he's received the gift of life. Mark Carpenter has his story.
Warren Sark has always prided himself on leading an active lifestyle. The father of two, enjoys playing music, the outdoors, and spent 25 years with the Honolulu Fire Department.
I was stationed at Waianae. I like Waianae because it's busy. I don't like watching TV.
Kidney issues run in the family, but it wasn't until age 55 when doctors discovered he was suffering from polycystic kidney disease.
Next thing you know, I was on dialysis, and dialysis wasn't working for me. You know, I would end up in the ER right after dialysis.
Warren eventually found himself in need of a transplant, and his kids immediately stepped in to donate. But he wasn't having it.
He just said no. It wasn't a conversation. It was just like, no, I'm not going to take that from you.
I didn't want them to have the problem that I was having in case they, you know, you can pass on polycystic kidneys. I got it from my dad, so I didn't know if they had it or didn't have it, so I just didn't want to take the chance.
He later changed his mind after finding out his kids didn't inherit any kidney problems. And for his daughter Kyla, becoming a donor was a no-brainer, and she noticed a change instantly.
After the procedure, my husband was there, and so when I woke up, he had, made sure I was okay, which I was. And then he said he was going to go check on my dad. And he went to go check on my dad and see him with the new kidney. And he came back and he was just in tears. He was just crying. And I said, "What's the matter? What's the matter with my dad?" He said, "Your dad has color."
A lifeline so many others could use. Hawaii has about 300 people waiting for a compatible donor. And the Queens Transplant Center specializes in shortening that list.
To donate a kidney is a fairly low-risk procedure. Patients come in and they have minimally invasive surgery, so we do it with small incisions, and they generally stay one night in the hospital.
Warren received his kidney back in 2013, and 10 years later, he couldn't be better. But there is one hiccup.
We're back to normal. Only thing I cannot eat raw fish. And we come from a big family, and the parties, there's a lot of raw fish, pork and whatnot, and I just gotta look.
Mark Carpenter, Hawaii News Now.
And on Kawaii, a quarter-acre of land on the North Shore is now protected forever. The Trust for Public Land led an effort to raise $1.3 million to buy and protect the access area to the Halulu Fish Pond off Kuhio Highway. The group then conveyed the land to the Waipaw Foundation. The nonprofit says it will continue to use the pond as a living learning center to educate the community. Let's go ahead and take you live outside now for a look at your first alert traffic. Earlier, there was an incident on the freeway in which several lanes were blocked near the Gulick overpass. But as you can see right now, that has been cleared up and traffic is flowing freely in both directions. Stay tuned. Right after this short break, we'll have more island news and weather.
Now, the winds will be getting stronger behind a cold front slated to come in later this afternoon. So expect very windy conditions today and tomorrow, as well as on Thursday. Tomorrow and Thursday, that's when we have posted a first alert, because the winds could be strong enough to trigger spotty power outages, maybe down some trees. So again, very windy tomorrow and on Thursday. And then on Friday, the winds kind of level off a little bit. Still going to be a little bit breezy, but at least those strongest winds should be done. Again, stronger winds Wednesday and Thursday. And then looks like on Monday they pick up again. So your 7-day forecast says we're going to see more showers tonight and tomorrow. Not a lot of rain by Thursday, although it's still going to be very windy. And then those winds kind of level off Friday and Saturday. The weekend is shaping up to be quite nice, but we got to get through these windy conditions. And again, with winds this strong over a sustained 48-hour period, we could see some spotty power outages.
We're expecting a large swell to arrive Tuesday into Wednesday. The swell is going to build in throughout Tuesday and peak that night. We're expecting high surf advisories to go in effect on north and west facing shores just below high surf warning levels. But just to note, the swells this past season have been coming in larger than forecasted. The peak of this swell will be happening at the same time as a weak cold front is approaching the islands, so expect breezy conditions and some rough seas midweek, coupled with a small craft advisory. We can also see some surf on east shores because of the strong trade winds moving in. There's a reinforcing swell that's going to be moving in late Thursday night into Friday. That's going to shift the swell out of the northwest to be more northerly, and it should keep the surf above advisory levels. The swell is expected to decline into the weekend.
The farm-to-table concept isn't always easy when you live in a city, but one climate-conscious project in the Netherlands is bringing fresh dairy products closer to home by swapping dry land for a floating farm. Ian Lee has more.
Among the cranes in this Dutch shipping port sits a floating barn. Dozens of cows help deliver fresh milk and cheese to the city of Rotterdam. The cows graze on hay and leftover orange rinds from a local grocery store. Robots milk the animals and even clean up their manure. Owner Mink van Wingerden calls it an innovative climate solution, especially in countries that suffer from flooding or drought. Mink's husband floated the idea after fresh food ran out when Hurricane Sandy flooded New York City in 2012. Visitors now come from far and wide to see the floating farm, many from big cities. Owners are moving on to the next stage after the success of the buoyant bovines, planning a second floating farm to grow vegetables, with the cow pies providing the heating. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Well, during this time of year, children often look forward to their visit with Santa. Some children, however, need extra assistance in communicating, and that's where sign language Santa comes in. Chris Bryant has the details of one of those Santa Clauses who is making a difference in the lives of children in Missouri.
Whether you had your Christmas list ready for a week,
toys, just lots of different things,
or putting the finishing touches on last minute,
I feel excited and happy, and I like signing what I want.
giving your wish list to Santa is a tradition for some in the Ozarks.
Yeah, I'm chatting with Santa.
For those who work with Santa, it's about using magic to make something inclusive for those who rarely feel included.
It is so magical. Our kids so often don't have the opportunity to communicate with anyone directly, but to an idol like Santa Claus, who is so precious and so special and is all-knowing. To have direct access on a day like this is amazing.
Not just for those who teach, but also for parents as well.
He can communicate, and I absolutely love that they offer stuff like this.
Even those special elves who work in Santa's workshop can't help but get misty from the experience.
It's really, really special to see the kids come in and be able to talk to Santa for the first time. You know, I've gotten misty more than once.
For the young at heart. For some, having a way to use your own voice
He signs better than he speaks, so it's great that we can have a one-on-one.
To see that Christmas magic in person gives all in attendance something to believe in.
It's touching. It's hard to not get emotional, like she said, because it is special.
That is so sweet.
What a lovely story there. I wish I knew sign language. It is a beautiful way to communicate for sure. And I've heard the sentence structure is a little bit, it's very difficult to understand, but it's a beautiful way to communicate.
Yeah, so special.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and send you live outside now. This is a live look over Honolulu. A beautiful sunny day that could change for our friends over on Kawaii. As you heard in our forecast, a cold front is moving through, so your wet weather could be on the way for our friends over there on the Garden Island. But here on Oahu, no major changes except for the ocean, where we could see some high surf into the weekend. Thank you all so much for watching.